Hello, I'm Tommy Schultz. With 2021 being quite similar to the previous year, it again makes sense to look back at simpler times from a decade ago, when I released the first part of my second documentary covering a Tosa West theater production. 10 years ago, our spring production was William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. This would end up being a much more truncated behind the scenes than any of the other three, being only 4 parts covering just 3 days of production all in a row, the very week that our production premiered.
True indeed. It's better late than never to be starting this documentary, seeing as how production will begin in only 3 days. On Thursday, we will begin production.
Perhaps due to the higher standards of a Shakespeare production, this would end up being a much more on-edge production with heightened aggravation, so the behind the scenes was more of an attempt to lighten the mood for cast and crew. Due to a more contentious production, I held off on releasing the behind the scenes until 7 months after production, which allowed me to use the end credits to help promote the fall production of Footloose, which I was not in. But still, the behind the scenes again allows people to relive memorable moments years later. Moments like...
Oh dear. Well, that was a near fatal accident. Good thing I got it on film.
And how about... And who could forget...
And, well, there goes Matt. I don't know what this nonsense is all for, but it is for the good of the theater!
Still containing much insightful commentary on only the most important aspects of production.
This is William Shakespeare himself. It's very expensive to fly him out here. And that's a court. That's a chair, which is not very period to what we're trying to do, but nevertheless. And for some reason there's a traffic cone in the middle of all this. I don't really that's the ladder. Very impressive. And there's another traffic cone. I don't know why we have so many of these things here, but... And that's broom. This ladder, don't walk under it. Nothing. And this is a milk carton. And that is another milk carton. I don't know what they're doing here, but there you have it. Yeah. It appears to be a bird on a skateboard. This, Mr. Matt, this is known as a script. Well, seems someone has had the misfortune placing a playbill here for the rival production at Tosa East currently. I wonder what that could possibly be doing here, except for me to mock it for your enjoyment. Indeed. This is a frisbee for some reason. And that is a teleprompter, but you won't be able to notice because of that thing which is going to block it from the public's view. Yeah. And for some reason there's a panda here. I don't know why.
Panda, Tommy, do you like it?
Why is there a panda here?
Because I felt like bringing him today. His name's Johnny.
Really? Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice, Mr. Bryan? Evidently, Mr. Bryan is rather indifferent towards a panda being here. Anyway.
Many interviews with cast and crew.
We'll talk later. As well, you see, because this is behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean production.
Are you making another?
But obviously... Anyway, that's it. Yeah,
hey, teach him how to
that is not my name. Well, as he is known in this production, Mr. Lancelot Garbo.
At your service.
Who, come to think of it, does not have much to do with the plot.
No, not at all.
He has added comic relief, which is odd because this is already supposed to be a comedy. And yes.
And I feel like we're really going to do a great job, and we're going to do a show that we can all be proud of.
Yes.
This is Mr. Alex Clanky, and Mr. Alex Clanky, do have one. Is there any truth to the rumor that Mr. Matt shot the sheriff, but he did not shoot the deputy? Because he did not give a very reasonable response. Why are you falling? This question has caused Mr. Alex to fall over.
It's true.
And chortle with laughter.
It's true.
You find the shooting of someone in the law enforcement amusing?
Quite amusing.
You are a sick man,
like the
Mr.
sheriff.
Alex
It wasn't very
Clanky.
nice.
I don't think we want it. Well, someone, Mr. Jack. How do you? Okay, Mr. Calvin. How do you? Mr. McCalvey. How do you? Well, they're too busy. They're going like go gophers, as one might say, or rather, one might not say, because that's a rather trendy expression. Indeed, quite. And what is this play actually about, Mr. Alex Clanky? Could you give a synopsis?
Alright, we have Jewish people. No one likes Jewish people.
Now, Mr. Alex Clanky, this is not very politically correct to be saying such things. And furthermore, and otherwise, oh dear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, so that's all this play is about, Mr. Alex Clanky. It doesn't seem to have much of a
yes,
plot.
the Jewish person's
Well, you
evil.
see, it is actually the rags to riches tale of Ernest P. Hermbottom and his rough and tumble life through the bars of 1846 England.
Yes, you're right. I was just messing the whole time. You're right.
Well, you shouldn't do messing things like that, because that is why Mr. Matt shot the sheriff, but he did not shoot the deputy. Again, Mr. Peter.
Lights off.
I don't have a light on the
Lights
camera
off.
that says whether it's on or not.
Lights
Anyway, so back to the daily grind. And now we quietly sneak up on the actors. They are reading lines, as they often do here on the hot Serengeti plains. We're going to go for a bit of a closer look now. We can't tell who's talking. They're going over lines, that's the important thing. There we go. Not suspecting of anything whatsoever. And now they're attacking each other in the head with the script.
Here, you.
Indeed, quite, and otherwise, oh dear. What's going, what the, well, he's the Mr. Clown, and another clown, and, well, that's Mr. Peter again, and Mr. Matt, and that Jack, and another Mr. Jack as well. Well, if it isn't a Mr. Max, who's unaware that he is now being part of behind the scenes of a Shakespearean production, and evidently rather reluctant to say anything. Mr. Max, if you do not turn around, this could be a very boring interview, because nobody will have said anything. And if you... Well, if it isn't Mr. Brian, who's finally returned from wherever he was.
New Orleans.
Well, why were all of you in New Orleans, Mr. Brian? Because you were part of a Shakespearean production, and that requires being part of the behind the scenes of a... Well, anyway, Mr. Brian, what do you have to say about the behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean production? Because you being a part of it and whatnot, and indeed, furthermore, what do you think about this production, Mr. Brian Condon?
I don't think it's going so well.
Mr. Brian, how can you say things about like that about
I think
our...
it's gonna get a lot better.
Well, Mr. Brian, you can't just think negative thoughts like that.
Well, I gotta practice my lines because I don't really know them all the way.
Well, then read ahead. Fine. Well, if it isn't a Mr. Clown, who was not here yesterday. Now see here, you clown, what is the meaning...
We got New Orleans.
Now see here, Mr. Clown, what is the meaning of this?
The meaning of this is to have bad masks.
Now, Mr. Clown, you cannot go on saying things like that.
Why?
Today,
What's good? We about to dance up in this girl tonight. What's good? We get up in this girl. What's good?
Mr. C.
We gonna step back. Yo, you ready to get this the whole time? Let's go. We about to go dancing. We about to get the mask up in here, bro. I can't wait to see you two on this. What's good? So man, C-double-C, aka Miles, holla at me. We at the play practice. What's good? Holla.
Mr. Cece, that's the problem when you shun my camera. You never explain what you're talking about, and it doesn't make much sense. And furthermore, and oh dear,
Here's what's going on. We're about to play by
yes,
3:30 to 9. Holla at me. Come see the show. It's the 1-4-1-4-0. Here come my man Nick. Let's go. We're doing this thing. We're dropping it down right now. We about to. Here come Mr. C. But you better put that camera away, bro.
We get the idea,
you get the message, bro.
Mr. C.
You get the message, bro.
Something to say. Well, Mr. Calvin,
No,
what?
actually.
Mr. Calvin, how can you not have anything to say? How is this? You, Mr. Max, why did you do that?
Word, yo, that's what up. Get in my grills. What up?
You don't have a grill, Mr. C. Mr. Clown. Now see here, you clown. What are you doing back here?
I'm setting up new microphones because they're awesome.
Yes, indeed. Well, how do you feel about this whole production of a Shakespeare and whatnot?
It is hectic because it's just horrible right now.
And there are teleprompters on stage.
Very nice teleprompters.
Well, yes, indeed, but nonetheless, they're still there.
Yeah.
She's going to look very unprofessional. And now there's a person underneath the desk. I don't know why.
I don't know what that is.
Anyone?
Hi. No.
Yes, indeed.
Yo. What's up?
Now, why are you doing that? My name is Tommy Schultz. What, Mr. CC? I most certainly am recording. But this is the behind the scenes of a total Mr. CC.
I don't think you feel
I keep explaining to you over and over again how, as I was saying, this is the behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean production. It is very important and whatnot. I know that. That's why it's called the behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean.
You want some Shakespeare with that fries?
Okay, you know what? I'm just getting on to it. It's getting rather. You know what? So, how do you feel about this production, Mr. Max? Yet again, I am filming for part of the behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean production. What else would I possibly be using it for? Mr. Brian Condon, well, there he goes anyway. For some reason, he is fiddling about backstage.
And even a few people who had nothing to do with the production getting swept into it.
And also Mr. Mitch Stingle, although what he could be doing here, since he has nothing to do with this production, I don't know why he's wandering about here. Are you going to see it anyway, nonetheless?
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But that's not very supportive.
With, of course, many of the best insights, again, coming from Matt Zanton.
And over there is a Mr. Matt Zanton, unaware that he is... Oh dear. Well, he's aware now. This is behind the scenes of a Tosa West Shakespearean... Oh dear. Mr. Matt, you do realize this is a camera. And my name is Tommy Schultzman. Anyway, how is the... Well, there goes Matt anyway. Well, I'm sure no doubt we'll be, because this is... Mr. Matt, now what was the meaning of all this? Well, it seems Mr. Matt is here. And he's now immune to dying.
America.
Mr. Matt.
This is Matthew Robert Zanton talking.
Now, Mr. Matt, how do you know that this is America? Because very well this video could be seen in another country.
It's the happy hour today.
Mr. Matt, what is the meaning of all
No
this
alcohol
nonsense?
involved. Sorry, adults.
Mr. Matt, see here.
We're doing a performance of The Merchant of Venice by William H. Shakespeare.
Well, I suppose.
William H. Shakespeare.
Yes, well, indeed.
The wonderful playwright known to all in the 1970s and on and below.
Now, Mr. Matt, I think your information is
William
more
H.
off.
Shakespeare was born in 1992 on the corner of Willis and Wilhelm. That's right, America. Willis and Wilhelm.
Now, see here, Mr. Matt, I'm pretty sure...
He was born to his wife, Martha.
What? Mr. Matt, that's very messed
right,
up.
ladies and
And
gentlemen.
I don't know if I want to
Born
continue going this.
Hamlet, his son, murdered at 1997.
Now, Mr. Matt,
4 years
that's not
after
funny
his
at all. And
He died in a water ski accident.
That's not
Why
funny at
was he
all.
on the water skis?
Mr. Matt,
Why?
water skiing was not invented until Mr. Matt, oh dear.
Why?
I don't know why, Mr. Matt. You're telling me that, Matt. Mr. Matt, I don't think anyone else knows why, since you're making up all this nonsense off the top of your head. Oh dear, he's coming in for dramatic effect. He is causing problems and aggravation to happen amongst the cast, because he is Mr. Matt Zanton, known for his somewhat disruptive personality and going around trying to start fights and rough and tumble battles with just about anyone who crosses his path. And if Mr. Matt doesn't notice I'm filming him, I'm just going to continue making up nonsense off the top of my head, because it's amusing me. Ha 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 ha. Oh dear, they're referring to my character name. Oh dear. Physical disagreement is breaking out amongst the cast, and it's all because of Mr. Matt.
Tommy, did you know?
And oh dear, he's Mr. Matt. Now see here, Mr. Matt.
Tea time!
Mr. Matt, now see here. I cannot control the camera if you're trying to control the camera at the same time.
I didn't say the F word.
Well, don't say it again, please.
I didn't say it.
Mr. Matt, I cannot...
Tea time!
Matt, they're gonna see the wall and not you if you keep doing things like that. Well, there's no reason for that, Mr. Matt. And furthermore, anyway, getting to the task hand, what do you think about this production?
It's going well. We're a little behind schedule. That's fine.
What role do you play in this production?
Graziano!
Really? Well, who's that?
He's a friend.
Well, I know that, but the audience may not be
He's a
aware.
friend of the main character.
And who's the main character, Mr. Matt?
Bassanio and Antonio.
And who are they? And who are these people you were speaking
They
of?
are. I'm not going to give you a whole synopsis, Tommy.
Well, Mr. Matt, some people may be unaware of what this production... Well, okay. Mr. Matt seems to be getting annoyed.
Tommy, can I see the
Oh,
camera?
dear.
No, I'm serious.
He's trying to back us into a corner. Oh dear. Mr. Matt is known
going
for causing
upstairs.
aggravation amongst the cast. What with his trying to start rough and tumble battles with whomever he happens to run into.
Rough and tumble!
But, Mr. Matt, is it true that you shot the sheriff, but you did not shoot the deputy?
I did not shoot
Because
the sheriff, but I did shoot the deputy.
Word has been going around about that. And furthermore, oh dear, we're about to hit a wall. This is unfortunate.
I've hit the wall.
Mr. Matt. Now see here. What is it? Ah, Matt. Well, you. There is. I didn't hear you say.
I swear to God, Tommy, if you do it.
Mr. Matt, they're going to.
Stop
in case nobody.
Let's talk about you, Taylor. Okay. Freaking psychopath.
Now, Mr. Matt, that wasn't a particularly good thing. There goes Matt.
Probably right then.
He's starting to go in his sort of psychotic rage, which is not good. And what exactly would that be, Mr. Matt? You think? I'm sure inquisitive minds would want to know.
You will do a horrible impression of yourself. On television.
Oh dear. Mr. Matt doesn't seem to be aware of who he is anymore.
Taco till I die.
Oh dear. Mr. Matt is getting lost in one of his many personalities. Soon he will eventually not even remember his own name. Anyway, this is Mr. Matt, who is now talking about the harsh world of prison behind the bars. Is something he would know about, seeing as how he shot the...
You guys do know he's been filming this whole conversation.
Well, not the whole conversation, but Mr. Matt has somehow gone into the topic of the harsh world behind bars in prison for no reason. Now, Mr. Matt, you should know very well that that is not my name. And furthermore, this is rather known as a bit of an awkward moment.
Matt, please. Sorry, we're gonna do a triple piggyback.
Well, don't mind me, please. Documentary, as you may know. I think Matt's all the way... Oh, dear. Oh, my, this could get dangerous. I'm going to... What is happening? Oh, my, it seems one of these actors have unfortunately been on their mounts and is preparing... See... And now the wild actor is sneaking up on the unexperienced cameraman. Here he comes, getting ready for his stealth attack moves. He's coming now. And unfortunately I have to keep turning my head around to make sure I don't fall over. Which is considerable. Yeah. He's backing up. I'm going to crouch down, maybe he won't notice me. Shh. Okay, it seems Mr. Matt has called off the attack right now. Mr. Matt, if I have a camera on you, why else would I not be recording?
Hello, America.
Why, Mr. Matt, stop saying things like that. Because it's nonsense like
Earthquake!
There's certainly not an earthquake going on. Do not try to confuse and annoy.
Are you interviewing anyone else but me?
Well, Mr. Matt, it's very ask question for.
Ask me a question.
Mr. Matt, you just seem to make up nonsense off the...
Ask me a question.
I didn't have a question for you today, but you are Mr. Matt, and you usually have the most to say in these kind of documentaries.
Losers, get in the center section.
Now, Mr. Matt, why would you say that about your fellow cast and crew? Because that is no way, I say. You just go, Mr. Matt.
Nowhere,
Mr. Matt, when the back of your head is talking, it's not very interesting.
Are you taping this?
And further, well, what else would I doing, Mr. Matt? Because obviously this is a documentary, as you may know. And
your head is the most interesting thing ever.
no, Mr. Max, I was just saying how the front of his head is much more interesting than... Mr. Max, we do not have earthquakes. This is Wisconsin, as you may know. And Mr. Max, now see here, they do not have earthquakes. Yes, indeed. As I was saying, Mr. Max, what is the meaning of all this nonsense?
Bonjour, General George.
Oh, no.
How are you today?
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
Let's get to our yet.
What? Mr. CC, Mr. CC.
I feel a rumbling in my stomach.
Indeed, comes the close. Another day.
Okay.
If it isn't Mr. Matt, Mr. Matt, Mr. Matt, what is the meaning of all?
I'm going to the bathroom.
Well, you didn't need to say that, Mr. Matt. We zoom in on him so he doesn't know he's being watched. Little does Mr. Matt know the terrible truth. Follow him around. It's much more interesting than... There goes Matt. And,
Don't get this on camera.
That Matt. Oh, what is happening? Oh dear, Matt. He's trying to eat his pen today.
You girl, this
I don't know why.
Oh, I love that song.
Followed closely by many other good points made by Tech Crew member Andrew Albee.
Mr. Discontent, you cannot hide from the truth.
I disagree, I can't.
Now see here, you discontent, Well, anyway, how do you feel about this production, Mr. Discontent?
Checking your image.
Who's trying to hide away from... What?
Nappa did it, I shall do it too. Good God.
I don't recall that part.
Remember he blows up?
Now see here, you discontent, what is the meaning of thinking you can get away with it? Indeed, fascinating, isn't it? Now see here, you discontent, what is the meaning of this?
Well, currently I'm installed.
I wonder what he's about to do.
We have 3 skulls.
What is the meaning of this, Mr.
Contestant
Discontent?
number 1.
What, Mr. Discontent? What is the...
Contestant number 2.
What? Mr. Discontent? Mr. Discontent, what is the meaning of this nonsense?
Contestant number 3.
Will you...
Kind of an airhead, might you say?
Mr. Discontent, I might not... What is the meaning of all this?
The skull.
No. Discontent has got nerve. Now see here, you discontent, you may think you can get away with it. But you are not. Well, it seems Mr. Discontent now has a groat on his neck. I wonder what this means. Now, Mr. Discontent, what is the meaning of you walking about with, Anyway, this is an old gobbo, also known as an Andrew Albee. And where is your little friend, Mr. Andrew Albee? Your little skull friend is sort of like a puppet. What?
I know, where is Julio? Have you seen him?
Julio, that's what you've named it?
Julio.
Yes, well, where is he?
I don't know, probably down by the school.
Anyway, do you have your lines memorized? Ha ha ha!
Hey, got it!
Now see here. Well, do you have your lines memorized?
You have lines memorized?
Do you have lines memorized? Because that is very important. Because that is why there is a teleprompter on stage. Actually, 2.
Where are these lines I'm supposed to memorize?
They're in the script, you discontent. Oh, never mind. If it isn't a certain discontent. Now, see here, Mr. Discontent. What is the meaning of this? Well, about this production, Mr.
Excessively complimenting the set made by our stage crew.
As you may have noticed, this is our set. Very impressive set, I must say. Goes above and beyond what Tosa West Theatre has ever accomplished. Very impressive, isn't it? And this is more of our very impressive looking set. And this is the stage. That's not a cast member. Up close and personal, whatnot. Isn't it nice? They're still building that set. Very impressive set indeed. Looking on the set. Indeed. It is a most impressive set. Put one of those things up there.
That looks right.
Yes, indeed, doesn't it?
Well, this production has taken up thousands of man hours, as you could see by the incredible set.
Well, yes, it is quite incredible. What's going on? The crew is trying to move. Oh, looks like they know what to do with it now because they've got it at an angle. Silly. Okay, up, okay, they got it. Sure hope they know what they're doing. Okay, they got that nice and straight. Yeah, some pictorial interest.
Many callbacks to the first behind the scenes.
Well, so you remember this back door, and there's the costume room, but no one was in there. There's the back door, no one was there. Well, that's still a narwhal for some reason, and there's still active construction in the zone past this point. And, that is our schedule. With those things. Well, as long as no one in tech crew is here, I might as well show us. This is what has happened to the tech crew since the musical. Not that interesting, and actually it's not quite that different, but there you have it. And what happened to the whole you dying in front of the camera whenever it is on? No, you discontent. He has
something new this time.
He's discontinued that tiresome running gag. And think that... Oh, there, we got it. Indeed, quite.
A recurring motif of eye sockets going into the camera.
Ooh, it's very dark and spooky and scary. I think we've seen enough of Mr. Matt today. Indeed. Why are you doing that? Why do people feel the need to stare their cornea into my camera lens?
I'm not the only one that did it.
Yes, Mr. Matt keeps doing that, and then seems a common theme anyhow.
And still even some actual rehearsals sprinkled in there.
Great.
Or if I stare at you any longer, I will eat you myself.
With more times to look back on, being glad that you were part of this company of people coming together to make something special yet again.
I suppose the day closes on another episode, on the first installment of Behind the Scenes of the Tosa West Shakespearean Production. It closes on another episode of Behind the Scenes of the Shakespearean Production. Mr. Peter, what has become of this teleprompter? This is no good, because there is some sort of disconnect around here, and...
Yeah, he's over there.
He's over there.